Just chilling. I don't know about this live video situation, but I thought I'd give it a shot and just push through all the other shit that all the fear and stuff about being seen and going and putting myself back out there. But I really feel like there's a lot of information to share about my experiences um, in the healing situation. And, I've seen the raw vegan situation pretty intense. And seen keto people move through some things as well. So I think um, the real solution is to everything is essentially the chi and cultivating that. So I think we're missing the point with focusing on diet, although diet is extremely helpful. And not gonna lie, it's like definitely being raw vegan is the most healthiest option to exist. You just gotta feel it for yourself, and then you'll know. Um, but yeah, it's like seeing that and the effects that it's had on my health, and then being keto or being carnivore or whatever that, and seeing those effects. I mean, it's pretty clear to me. But everybody's on their own path, and so I'm not judging anybody. I'm just kind of there as like an example that you can pull out of anything pretty much. Like if you just get your mind right and your diet right, and actually do the work. And so there's like a big thing about parasites. There's a lot of talk about parasites and clearing the parasites, and that's super important. Definitely, you want to get in there and move those things out. However, you got to also create the environment for these things to not come back. And on top of that, you've also got to recognize that there's also mind viruses and mind parasites that actually create this chronic acidosis type of a situation. It makes it hard on the body to do its job. It needs to be more alkaline forming by its design. And so when you achieve that, and all the things that come with that, because when you do that, you'll notice increased strength, um, muscle definition, and all that. But the muscles actually need sugar. That's the big joke. Like, yeah, protein will build muscle, and protein will also build up things. But it's like we use glycogen in our muscles for fuel, so we've got to put that back in there every time we exhaust it. And when you realize that, it's kind of mind blowing because you become quite peaceful in your existence. And a lot of things that would have bothered you before kind of roll off your back. And I think that's too, like, I remember first getting into alchemy, and I remember taking a quiz. It was Dennis Hawk's quiz on his website, which just want to shout out to Dennis. Like, what an amazing person he is, and all the work he's done in the alchemy community, and all the books that he's written, and his generosity towards everyone. I mean, he's just super awesome dude. Just want to really say thank you to him because he kind of got a lot of people into alchemy back in the day. Um, but anyway, there was this test that like showed where you were at in the process, and so the alchemy was sort of this promise to chill everything out. You know, whether you're in traffic or a long line at the supermarket. What is the actual application of alchemy? It's well, to make it short, it's essentially a refinement into these other more spiritual aspects of ourselves. And so, yeah, the diet is actually important, but it's not as important as our minds getting that right. So I would work on that. Um, but yeah, the food is actually important, but it shouldn't be like some kind of extremist, dogmatic kind of thing where It's like you have to eat a certain schedule, you have to get a certain amount of protein, you've got to not eat something cooked or whatever the restriction is. Like a lot of times that does more mental damage to not living up to something that we think is like some target that's actually shifting in the sand. So, our target is to actually self actualize. That's, I think, our purpose here is to actualize our gifts that we are endowed with. And in order to do that, we've got to be running efficiently and really just effectively. And so there's mind, body, and spirit. And, I kind of want to talk more about the chi, which is the spirit. So accumulating this chi, um, most common way is breath work. A lot of people do that. People that are exercising, they're jogging, they're running, they're lifting weights, they're breathing deep, they're infusing that chi energy. But if you actually go into the practice with some kind of objective to accumulate this stuff, then some serious magic takes place. The other thing is the gold, of course. Like, that's something I've been into for a long time, maybe like 2008, something like that. I started with Ormus and stuff, and then through one of um, Dennis's conferences with Goodney, I met Robert and Karen, and then I started studying with Robert, which was absolutely amazing. So grateful for them. So grateful for them to just their teachings. They're so generous with their with the ancient wisdom. And yeah, I learned alchemy, and then I learned about the gold. And I remember sitting opposite his desk when I first tried the gold, and it was like some transcendental experience, to say the least. And just remember, wow, that is pretty incredible stuff. And so that kind of started me on, like, we should really get this out there to people. And one of the people we were working with at the time, Sir Charles, he wasn't so much interested in that. Um, but yeah, it's kind of funny because I got a lot of his stuff. I want to share a lot of his work. He had me record a lot of our conversations, so I know in the future I'd like to ultimately do some more lives, go on, have a YouTube channel, develop that a little more, and then go into some of the teachings he taught me, because we used to have these sessions on the phone. I'd call him. He lived in Oregon at the time, right by, I think it was called Six Rivers or something like that, or Rivers, Oregon, or something like that. But it was such a beautiful place, and we did one of our first antimony workshops together there, and had Robert come down, and such an amazing experience, an amazing opportunity. And it's actually documented in Robert's book, the book on antimony. So if you get that book, there's some of that was documented there, and also all the other amazing notes that he has in there. So I highly recommend that book if you're into mineral alchemy and you successfully work through the plant kingdom and have some comfort in the minerals, because there's really not a lot of room for there's not a lot of wiggle room in when you cook antimony. You definitely don't want to breathe that. In fact, from what Carl told me, there's a guy named Israel Regardi. He wrote many books. Some of you guys already know who he is. But yeah, he wrote a bunch of different books um, on the Golden Dawn and different things. So he was working with Dr. Rydell and those guys back in the day. Dr. Rydell is somebody that taught Carl and Robert, um, Sir Charles, basically, and Robert. But anyway, he had breathed in a bunch of antimony by accident when he opened up the lid, and just like was affected the rest of his life for that. So you definitely don't want to mess around with the minerals. Um, that's why I'm kind of hesitant to like just put processes out there, because you never know who is on the other end and what their level of capability is. So I think it's important to make a plant stone first and truly dial the plant kingdom, and then move on to the minerals, because there's a lot more wiggle room with burning leaves and herbs and different things. So But yeah, I mean, that whole thing, it's like, between the alchemy, and then I was into the raw foods basically before I got into alchemy, and then was kind of in and out of the raw scene. Eventually going back to eating uh, the cooked meats and stuff back in like 2000, I think it was 2012, something like that. Just because, I was with somebody and I thought to make it easy, I would just eat what they ate, but turns out that was not a good plan. I got pretty sick from actually eating the meat and had to go back, which I'm so happy for. One of the people that actually shaped my journey in all this was Kip Anderson. Like, he did a movie called Cowspiracy. I remember going to his grand opening in San Francisco, um, and I was just like, oh shit, I can't eat meat anymore. that's, that's horrible. Like, what's going on? But that's just me. I'm not trying to judge anybody else. But yeah, it just really freaked me out. And so ever since, that kind of got me back into the veganism. But then I wasn't doing like the raw veganism. I was doing more like cooked stuff. And there was like this place in Nevada City when I used to live up there. It had these crepes, whatever you call them. And this thing was like, it was like right next to Elixir, and it was kind of in its own little um, pop-up tent like thing. And so I would eat this vegan cheese and all the things on there, and like, definitely not a good idea. So um, I had to like go deeper on what's going on. I definitely didn't want to eat meat because I just knew too much about the industry. And I actually grew up, my family survived off money from boxed beef. My dad was into a company that, well, he worked for a company that provided beef, and he commuted from Chicago, is where Chicago's like a really huge meat packing scene. And I remember him going to Vegas, and so he would sell to Vegas and commute and all that. Um, but yeah, that was a lot of the financial came from that. So just, I don't know. I have a whole different take on it, and it's kind of interesting because you know I'm super grateful for everything. Um, but yeah, just I feel like it's super important to also speak out about certain things, and it just for me it just didn't vibe. And so anyway, I don't want to like be the annoying vegan person, but I would love for people to really understand the healing energy behind it, and just what it can do for you. And it's just so silly that a lot of the keto thing is like to avoid carbohydrates. It's like, just think about how we fuel, how what energy we use for fuel. If you just like study it, it's sugar. So you can get sugar via the keto, glucogenesis or whatever it's called. Um, but that's a lot of taxing on your body. Why not? Like, when you just get it from fruits, and it's like already partially digested with your saliva, so it's like super easy. It just gives you a ton of energy, and then you'll just feel amazing. But the other thing is, like, so many people are so hardcore about like, where do I get my protein from? Where do I get the vitamins from? Where do I get all these different things from? But if you think about it, just think about this. If you take a plant, just put it in just, you know, some rock wool cubes, just put a little seed in there and water it with distilled water. Where is the plant getting its vitamins and minerals from if it's being grown in distilled water? And so there's a lot there to unpack if you think about it. I mean, really think about that, because if you study Louis Kevron's work, biological transmutations, he did sort of these experiments, restricting calcium in chickens, and they would still lay eggs with enough calcium to create a hard shell. So he's theorizing that they're transmuting potassium to calcium in a biological system, room temperature superconductor kind of, um, well, room temperature transmutation, basically. I don't know how else to describe it. Um, but yeah, it's pretty crazy because we're told that we need all these different things, and then we forget about the alchemy behind it. Alchemy is essentially, it's not only about the transmutation, it's um, it's a transformational experience, and yes, capable of transmuting the base lead of the soul into this gold, right? That's what we're told. Um, but what if we were actually true to the alchemists, um, their mantra of um, being the inner to the outer. So there's this macrocosm, microcosm that goes on with alchemy. And so if we can produce these transmutations in the external, that's only because we've done the transmutation internally. So I think that's the key about alchemy is like what you do internal will be reflected in the outer world. So for me, the alchemy process, and you know, I'm just talking about from my experience, but in my experience, I've found that getting the diet right and doing moderate exercise and moving your body and stuff and the breath work and all that, um, that will accelerate the process. It's not going to make it easier because you have to face all of your demons and all of the shadow stuff that was you didn't feel safe at one time to express, that kind of got into the shadow. So it's facing that, um, which we all have to do at one point or another, or it just gets siphoned out. It's kind of like a teapot, you know, a little bit steaming off, and then eventually just reaches a crescendo. So there are these forces at play that want to refine us. Some of them, and they don't have a set schedule. So you could be in the car and something triggers you from some unhealed wound or something like that. But that's when the real work begins. That's when you want to actually dig in your heels, figure out like what's actually this, where is this coming from, and just allow it, and just don't judge it, and just allow it to move through, and just whatever information you can glean out of that experience is going to help you shape this new crystallized version of you. So when we deal with all these darker things, um, it's essentially a refinement. So we're analyzing all these things that we think we are, only to realize that we're not that. And then so we have this question of what are we? And for that, that's where we get to be creators, and we can create whatever we choose to be. And so there's obviously, when you go through the alchemy process, you choose to be, um, it's not spiritual bypassing per se, but you choose the positive path. Just it's just a weird thing. It's like the refinement creates these more subtle spiritualized aspects, and according to some, we're fixing these spiritual qualities into our physical bodies here. So it's like a fixing of the divine in our now. And so that's funny. This cat is so awesome. Look at this. And so, yeah, I mean, it's like, if you really, I mean, all I can say is from my experience with both of these things, and I don't consider myself a strict raw vegan. I'm mostly raw. On occasion, I'll do like some cooked potato or some cauliflower. I mainly limit it to vegetables. The grains are just, it's interesting because when you actually get super clean, then you'll feel things land differently, and even things you could tolerate at one point, most likely because of the biofilm that accumulates. Once you get rid of that, the biofilm, and you have a healthy digestion, and things like hit harder. So if you hit grains, or if you eat grains, or if you eat corn or something like that, it's like fire, man. Honestly, like you feel the acid load moving through your system. Um, but yeah, the key for me is like, and I'm sure that this is, you know, a lot of different spiritual pursuits, is purification. And so when you actually do that, it reflects your mentality, it affects your positive nature. Um, Not to say that it's going to be easy breezy. I guess it could be whatever you want it to be, but obviously things, unhealed things come up. We get to be aware of them and then recontextualize them into something that's going to be more suited for us to um, share our gifts with the world. And so yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with everything. I feel like if you really want to experience profound health and wellness and peace of mind, and not have to worry about doctors and stuff so much, it's like you definitely want to go through the alchemical process. Um, and obviously, I highly recommend doing mostly raw vegan, at least high raw vegan, and that'll kind of get you going on the right direction for sure. And it's almost interesting because like even the animals will sense like your this peaceful nature about you. So the deer come up to you and stuff, and other animals, and they just kind of know that you're not a threat to them, and that um, you're not there to hurt them. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's like I don't want to hurt anybody or anything. I want to be able to exist. I want to be able to honor God, and I want to be able to be a blessing for others as well. And so that's kind of my goal, is to share all the information that I've accumulated in my life regarding longevity and life extension. And so that's what I'm focused on. I want to share the true information about accumulating the chi. That's the most important thing, is to accumulate this subtle life force energy. And we can get it through food, we can get it through breath, we can get it through other things, but ideally, um, you want to be mindful of collecting chi. I think in the Ayurvedic tradition, it's called rasayana, or rejuvenation therapy. So yeah, that's what I'm planning on doing, is releasing some videos on that and share more about my alchemy and the teachers that I've had, especially the ones that are no longer here, like Carl. And yeah, we're gonna have fun doing this. And I'm also gonna share some stuff about growing food correctly, because I fully believe that you gotta really grow your own food, if you want it to be how you like it. I don't use any chemicals or anything on the backyard. I just use compost, basically compost, and I'm no-till kind of belief system, so that it's so crazy because like this yard back here is probably, you know, since the transformation began, I'm guessing like 15 years of converting the soil, and it was like a traditional Southern California backyard. It was just grass. There was no other tree in it. I mean, there was a couple trees in the corner, in both corners, but it was just like this um, blank canvas of grass. And so I planted all these incredible trees in there, um, and then composted around it, and then all the leaves that fell on it. So it's like, even in the summertime when it's hot, there's so many leaves on the pile that like it you dig down into the grass, it's still, or into the dirt, and it's still actually wet, even though it had, you didn't get rain for a couple months. So not only does it conserve water, but I mean, I have to still water like a lot of the trees because you want them to get fruit, and I want to create a situation to where they have enough moisture to um, make big fruits. So in that regard, I do still water a couple of the trees. Some are so deep though, like the macadamia nut tree. It's so crazy. Like that tree goes down so deep that I don't I watered it once, like 3 or 4 years ago. I just watered the heck out of it, and I don't know. It got such huge. I think it actually tapped into the groundwater because I live next to a little riverbed kind of situation. And so I think it just found the water because it's still giving me macadamia nuts every year, even though the squirrels eat all of them. But I can't be mad at the squirrels. They're just trying to eat. And I don't eat a lot of fatty nuts. So it's cool. But anyway, so yeah, I want to go into some of the ways that we can grow food, um, and you know, and get into more of that. So I've worked with California rare fruit growers over the years, and some other organizations. I used to do this event called the Persimmon Festival with some dear friends, and it was so much fun because we would sell persimmons and the baked goods, but I was always into the exotic persimmons, so we had access to one of the universities here that grew an extension to one of the universities here that we would go pick, and then we'd sell it at our event. And then also just people in the neighborhood that had a persimmon tree, they were always happy for us to cut the persimmons down because they can make an extreme mess if you're not quick enough on it. But yeah, I miss those times with the persimmon festival. But yeah, it's amazing when you think about what we need to live and how we need to thrive. And it's really quite simple. And you can just reverse engineer the whole process. And you can also take notes from what you're seeing. There's certain people that vibe a certain way. And I always found it curious, like, why people just talk so much shit. It's, I guess, human nature because we're insecure about our position on things. And so we sometimes have to tear down others to make our way, or um, like rise up. But it's just so unnecessary, I feel like, because yeah, it's like we can just live our life by example, and you're gonna get a lot more people that vibe with that than if you tell them that what they're doing is wrong and that they need to do it a different way. Even if you're right, it's like, I don't know. I've been on both sides of it, and now that I think about it, I just really just that inner peace is most important, and um, helping others find that, because there's a lot of stuff designed to get us all worked up. And even though it's like it's super important to speak up about injustice and all, that shit can consume you so bad. So I don't know, there's a balance, because I know that a lot of this stuff ended this last go around because people were vocal about it, and certain people that wanted to control the narrative lost the narrative. So I know there's a balance between speaking out against injustice and cultivating inner peace. For me, a lot of times over the years, I would get sucked in to what was going on, and it's not a good place. You're not helping anybody, although speaking up is always gonna help. But being consumed by it and staring into the abyss too long, you become the abyss. So I realized, like, my purpose here is to heal and I have a variety of ways to do that, and so I don't need you to be a raw vegan to heal. I mean, ideally, that's the best route, but at this point, I've come across so many different modalities, and I really feel like that's my calling, is to share those gifts with people. So that's what I'm going to do. I want to be able to, you know, coach cancer patients, give them all the information they need to make their own decisions. I'm definitely not a doctor. I don't claim to be. Um, None of the things that well, a lot of the things that I work with are traditional and have been in the medicine system of yesteryear, right? Like in Egypt, and I think Paracelsus was curing people of the plague back in his time in the 15th. I think it's the 15th or 16th century. Um, so yeah, these implements, and then there's a book called The Triumphal Chariot of Antimony, where Dr. Kirkering annotated his experience with his patients, and that I just want people to have information. And since I've been in the healing field since 2012 with a partner at the time, um, I just thought it was so incredible that you could help people. Like, I used to fix computers, and I thought that was cool. Like, you walking into a big bank, everyone's like down, no one like they're losing like a shit ton of money while everything's down. So you kind of get in there, punch a couple of keys on the keyboard or whatever, and then it's fixed. And like, that level of satisfaction um, made me really happy. I think I was thriving on that for a long time. And then just being in the healing stuff and seeing the people heal, that gave me even greater satisfaction. So I want to continue to do that. I want to continue to make these um, traditional products available to people. Um, I feel like that's also an important thing. But yeah, I really want to be able to help people. I want to be of service. I want to share um, their options right where they're at now. Um, so wherever they're at, I'm definitely willing to help. And there's many different things outside of mainstream, and especially if you're getting like some kind of sentence, like where it's like you only have a certain time. I've seen things that are absolutely insane. So I would never give up. I would just know that there's options, and I'd be happy to share those with you. So, um, yeah, I would love to be able to consult with you and get you on the right path and give you the options that you can make the right decisions with. So it's interesting because there's like one side is the artificial light, and one side is the natural light, and it's like doing all these crazy colors to my hair. But if you look at my hair, it's like it's not the color that it thinks. It changes colors. So anyway, yeah, I look forward to making more of these videos, and yeah, if you have any questions or anything, hit me up, or if you have any comments or anything, let me know. At this point, I feel like, time is of the essence, and I really want to be able to help more people. I'm helping someone right now that it's just a really beautiful experience to see them take on the responsibility to do the healing work. And I'm like the cheerleader basically, but I'm also giving showing the data and all the different ideas for them to make their decisions. But we're getting really amazing results, and I've seen a lot of other results over the years, so I'm quite confident I can help. Um, so yeah, everybody, appreciate you guys. It's been fun knowing everybody over the years. It's so funny that you can like reach out to people all over the world with this platform. And yeah, if you want some gold, hit me up. That's always fun to initiate people with that. And yeah, take care. We'll see you on the next video.